Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bunbun, and this is our From Season 3, Episode 5 reaction and review. Can you guys believe it? We have made it to the halfway point of this season.
Yeah, it's going by very quickly. And it's probably because we've all been waiting for this show to come back. I mean, after that last season cliffhanger, to actually be here in this season, it's just blowing by. Episode 5 already. Oh, slow down.
I think it's made even worse by this fact that we have all been just sort of like desperately craving answers, and
Yeah.
maybe they've been given a couple of us answers, but then they've also sort of been like, ha 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 ha, you guys thought you knew what was going on. Now we're gonna make Dale into Concrete Man by the end of this episode.
Yeah, and I think that that has given us some answers. I'll have a bit of a tinfoil hat theory on that. So, everybody get your tinfoil hats on nice and early when we get into this video of why Dale didn't go anywhere and he ended up at the motel that doesn't exist inside the pool. Like, why didn't he actually make it back? You guys, of course,
Mhm.
leave your theories in the comments, and we've got some theories here too of why he didn't make it.
Well, before we get into that, and so much more from a pretty jam-packed and even at times emotional episode, hit that subscribe button because we have so much more good stuff coming. This has also been a particularly big week here at the channel when it
Mhm.
comes to horror because Jess and I went into all of this most recent season of American Horror Stories, which was a 5 episode
Mhm.
Halloween event. We did reviews of those all in one day. It was a really great time. We highly suggest you take a look at those.
Also, we're covering The Penguin exclusively
Mhm.
on our Patreon. It is the only place that you can get those reviews all season. We drop our reviews weekly over there. We will leave a link for you below in our description if you want to join
Mhm.
our Patreon. It helps support Matt and I here at the channel, and you get to check out our Penguin reviews.
Thank you guys so much. And now let's not waste any time here. Let's just get into the Dale of it all because I'm curious to what you have to say.
Yeah, so it's also kind of interesting because the actress that plays Donna
Mhm.
and the actor that plays Dale are actually married in real life. So, they're no longer going to be seemingly working on the show unless we have him coming back, Father Caudry style. I don't think so. I think he's gone. But okay, tinfoil hat.
Yep.
This is what I think is happening. So it makes sense, of course, that Tabitha has come back. Everyone wants answers. Oh, I went through this bottle tree. I ended up at this lighthouse and I ended up home.
Yep.
Cool. I was expecting a lot more people than just Dale to be marching out to that tree to go home. Like,
Yeah.
I know Boyd tried to tell everybody, stop. You don't know. I've gone through one of these trees. I ended up at the bottom of a well. Like,
Yeah.
nothing great was happening here, so you don't know where it's actually gonna take you. And I think that that's kind of the key with this, that even though this is a special tree that seemingly will take you to the lighthouse, at least it did for Tabitha,
Yeah.
that is not what happened here. While Dale marched out to this tree, went through, and ended up dead in the side of the abandoned pool by the motel that doesn't exist. That was also
Yeah.
interesting just that this motel doesn't exist. I had never really noticed it before. Henry was like, why you guys have a pool and a sign for a motel? There's no motel here. But anyways, I think that the kids are the reason, and they've always felt like they're the connection
Okay.
for me, the Ankui children. The boy in white, who I think was part of the Ankui children but got away, the people that seem to be trying to rescue the kids, from the tower, which is a lighthouse, or have seen the kids to be able to want to rescue them, those are the chosen people that are actually going to go through the tree and get to the lighthouse. They have finish their journey for whatever reason that they're here. I have thought that it's because everyone that's there has come there at a big turning point in their lives where they're about to make a huge switch in their lives, and then they end up here
Mhm.
before they're able to transition into the next part of their lives. So I think whatever they have to deal with here, then they're going to see the children, then they can go through the tree, because it feels like, the only evidence we have is that Tabitha saw the children, had this feeling of I gotta save the children, I gotta get to the tower, and that's why she was allowed to go through. Dale just wants to go home, and that's not a good enough reason. He has not finished his journey, and now he has.
Okay, there's so much going on when it comes to this tree with Dale. Like the analogy I'm sort of making in my head, there's actually a couple of different ones. You guys can let me know in the comments which analogy you prefer here. There was a little bit of like a sword in the stone quality to it, where it's like the right person can pull that sword out from the stone who
Yeah.
maybe has that destiny, but it's also there's something about the tree that's able to gauge almost intent, where maybe it is tied in some way to the children, understanding the children, what you have to do with the children, because then it also kind of comes into the great sea smoke analogy from House of the Dragon, where sea smoke ended up choosing who wanted to be on the back of that dragon.
Oh,
I love sea smoke's my favorite dragon. This is why I'm stuck on that. But
cheap stealer over here.
oh yeah, of course. No, I just think that really this tree is able to sort of discern something when it comes to the person's intent, and it might come down to what that person believes their destiny to be, which is something you kind of touched on. And I've said for a while that I think that every person in Fromville is trying to ultimately potentially fulfill this destiny that they have on the outside world, but in order to get to that point, they have to complete a quest, like Ethan says. And this is sort of where I think some of our theories converge a little bit, where Tabitha, I think she had completed a certain amount of her quest to get back, and I think she was able to then access the tree. She, to use one other analogy from The Bachelor, she was there for the right reasons.
Oh my
She
goodness. The
understood.
Bachelor from crossover. I never
Yeah,
thought would happen.
everything is connected here on the channel, but I think she really got to that point and she was able to take these steps forward, and it was all very purposeful. Dale, meanwhile, was just, "Bah, I'm getting back here. I don't care
Yeah.
what any of you say." He was very, very brash. He was pretty stubborn. He did not have that emotional bandwidth that was approaching the tree in the right way. And what a way to go out. Like, this was just dark and brutal and really signature from that you are now concrete man.
Yeah, intent, I think, is a lot to do with Fromville in general, but definitely with this tree. Like, even with the connection with the children, we know
Mhm.
that Tabitha, of course, she wanted to go home, but her intent was to help and to find a way to bring sort of hope to people, to help these children, to be able to do something that wasn't selfish just for herself, where Dale was just, I'm doing this for myself. I want to go home. I want. And the tree
Mhm.
was like, oh, you want? Okay. You're going to have, a lifetime in the pool.
Here's what I will say is that if Dale did not have the iconic death that he had, I'm not entirely sure this would hit very hard for me, because not to be too mean to Dale, I just don't really care that much about Dale. I was not invested in Dale's journey. I'm not shocked or sad to see that Dale is gone at this point. The biggest reason I am like, oh my God, Dale, is just because of how exactly it is that he went. If they wanted to create a big shock because of somebody dying, they could have easily used a more important character.
Dale, for me, was absolutely the right character for this,
Okay.
because he is selfish and
Mm.
brash, and he's very much into himself. And yeah, we haven't gotten to know him very well, but the few times that we have gotten to know him, he really is about what's best for Dale.
Mm.
So it made sense then that if Tabitha's gonna be like, yeah, I went through this bottle tree, I went home, whatever, that he was gonna be the first person marching out there to leave
Yeah,
and
and
not listen to anybody.
poor Boyd. I just gotta say that Boyd's trying his best. Nobody's really listening to him. This was a great episode for Harold Perrineau yelling at people. I think he really was able to get it all out there over the course of this.
Yeah, and I understand why no one was listening at that point. There is hope that people can get out of there.
Yeah.
Tabitha has left. They're all kind of not circling all the way back around to the fact that she is back. That, yeah,
Yeah.
she left, but she wasn't gone for very long. And now she's right back here again. So just the idea that she got to leave, she did try to tell somebody. I know they were all like, oh, why didn't you try to tell more people? anybody that could listen. Tabitha's like, I did. And he's here with me. So this is what has happened, sort of thing. Fromville is not going to let me tell somebody that this is happening and not then just swallow them back up into this town. Like, that's not going to be a thing that happens. I really like that Fatima and Ellis were very much down the hole of, we're going to get out of here. They have a lot on the line with having a baby. He now knows that she's been eating this rotten food, that she really thinks something's wrong with the baby. And that puts a much more pressure on them to get out, and that it's somebody that's really close to Boyd. Like, could we see them not really listen and go out there? I know we had this moment with Boyd and Ellis where Ellis was like, we got to do something. Boyd was like, cool. Whose life do you want to put on the line? This person, you choose somebody's life. I think Ellis will choose his own for his family. I'm very worried that Ellis is going to do something not necessarily completely reckless, even after what he has seen, but he's in a really desperate situation to get his wife out of there.
Yeah, and I think he is going to take some sort of risks. I mean, what happened here with Dale is kind of a sad inevitability, if you will, because the moment that these people all found out that, oh, Tabitha found her way back, I understand where Boyd is coming from, that you don't want to trust this town. This town does terrible things. He's tried things before that didn't exactly work. Like, his point of view makes sense. But somebody was going to do this. If it wasn't going to be Dale, it was going to be someone else. And in a way, as sad and dark as this sounds, he's lucky that it was Dale, because it could have been Ellis, because of everything Ellis is fighting for. And I still think there's a chance Ellis is going to try something later on down this season, but it's going to have to be something slightly different, because you don't want to just repeat what happened to the guy who's now dead.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried that it was going to be Jade, because Jade has been trying to get out of there forever now. But with Tabitha back, Tabitha seems to be a real rock for him. Like, their connection and friendship, really the connection that they have now both seen these children. They both have so many connections to Fromville that their knowledge together might actually be the thing that breaks the code of these bottles in the trees and these numbers that are in these bottles. And it was nice to see him a little more grounded again now that she's back, to have somebody to talk to. That was the thing that he was really missing, is nobody understands what's happening, and he doesn't understand. But he's seen things that only really Tabitha has seen as well, and that there's actually another person there that gets it.
This is why it is the sad but good thing that Tabitha's now in the town again.
Right.
She can help keep Jim from doing Jim things. She can calm down Jim. Yeah, I know. Jim is just a hot mess.
Listen, Jim this season, like, I've never been the biggest fan of Jim, because he always seems to be putting his hands on people and roughing people up.
Yeah.
But this season, he is, and I understand why. He's going through it. I get it. But he's putting his hands on so many people, like grabbing people, grabbing his kids, grabbing whoever. Like, Jade just walked into the house and was like, hey guys, let's all go to the tree. Jim is grabbing him. I'm like, guys, stop putting your hands on everybody.
Yeah, he needs to find, I don't know if Fromville has just like some anger classes or something he can go to try to improve himself. I understand he is going through it, but let's get back to the tree. And in particular, you mentioned the numbers, and I'm sure that the producers of From, who worked on Lost, were just
all
like,
about the numbers.
Let's have some fun with numbers again, guys. Now, I obviously don't think that we're getting the numbers 2.0 here on From. I think there's some sort of specific meaning for it. There's plenty of theories that are out there already.
Oh, yeah, you don't think there's a hatch that has a washing machine in it?
I am only okay with that if it is Desmond. And I'm not saying just Henry and Cusick. Henry and Cusick has to also play Desmond on this version of From for me to be okay with that. But no, I really think here, and this is just, we already have tinfoil hats on. So the numbers here, could they all represent people? Because this would not be the first show in existence that tried to come up with some sort of like alphanumeric code for everyone. And I kind of think a lot about bottles with something within them, not to go like full police here with message in a bottle, but just the idea of, you're putting something out there in a bottle out to sea. Each one of them is kind of in its own way individualized. And so these numbers may each represent a person, a dream, a thought. But what would make this so interesting is that we know about, the bottle tree in the real world now,
Mhm.
that maybe that could actually be a clue as to who's going to be targeted, who's about to be targeted, and maybe you can find some sort of way to stop this before it really starts if you're able to analyze all that. But the problem is, unless you understand the code, none of it really makes any sense. Bob can go to that tree in the real world, look at all these numbers, and just be like, I don't know about this. But I think there's probably a specific reason for it, just in the
Mhm.
sense that if Fromville is about destiny and being able to achieve a certain destiny, there has to actually be some sort of way for people to get out. I mean, I know we've already seen it with Tabitha,
Mhm.
but there has to be an end game for everyone, because then otherwise you're just in a permanent purgatory and there is no hope. And I want to believe in hope, guys.
I wonder if the messages in the bottle are actual messages between the different worlds
Hmm.
and that people are trying to communicate out and in, and that the messages that are in Fromville, because Fromville's not going to just let the actual message, let's say
Yeah.
Miranda on the outside world is writing a message like, hey, if you go through this tree and eat waffles at the same time, you'll get out. And she puts that message in the bottle and it goes through from world, but now it's just 4059,
Yeah.
that it is in a code, but they don't know what that code is, that the actual message won't get through. They'll get something else that they don't really know, and they have to then take the time to solve the puzzle. And the same thing, if say they put a message, the same thing,
Hmm.
yeah, if you eat these waffles, life's going to be great. And you put it in the bottle and you hang it in a tree. If it goes back to the real world, then it's, 2591.
I Okay, let's continue to get crazy on all of this, because I think there's got to be some sort of way for Fromville to better understand this code. But I also think that, yeah, Tabitha seems to be one of the quote unquote chosen people, and that being able to see the kids and escape. But I think if we're to believe that everyone is in Fromville for some sort of reason, I think there's got to be some sort of connection between what's going on with these individual people
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to use that to analyze the code. And I mean, I'm going so far as to say here that, maybe there's something in Elgin's dreams that serves as an indicator as to what certain numbers mean. And then maybe you connect that in some ways to everything that Jade is seeing from the past. Like there's something even going on with Julie at this point. Like everybody has sort of, I don't want to call it a superpower because most of these are very, very bad, but everybody seems to have something going on. And maybe there is a rhyme or reason to this.
I know this is a really dark show, but I really enjoyed
Mm.
Elgin and Julie and Mr. Dress Up Tickles Drunk. It was so cool to see
Yeah.
them like opening it up and putting on all the costumes and taking pictures and just having a smile for a second. It
Yeah.
did remind me, and I'm glad they showed this again, the idea of, Julie going up in that first night with Fatima and like, oh yeah, if you look out over it all, something that's a nightmare can still be beautiful. And then they have this really great friendship that's brewing, and they're dressing up and
Yeah.
having fun, taking Polaroids and just being kids, and it was so nice to see.
And I hope that continues, especially because Elgin needs a consistent person to talk to about some of this sort of stuff. And this is the thing that has frustrated me to no end about all of these people, is that for their circumstances, they don't talk to each other enough about what they're all each going through. Like, you are all in a terrible position together. There's got to be a way that you put all your rings together, powers combine, and actually sort of save yourselves from what's happening.
Okay, let's talk about Jasper, because I was really hopeful that we were going to get something
Yeah.
on that this episode. I still feel hopeful we'll get something this season. I
Yeah.
hope they're not going to just forget that and leave it in the ether until next season. It was such a huge breakthrough in this last episode. I understand why Victor got derailed,
Yeah.
learning that his dad is in town. These two men are both really insecure about their positions with each other. They haven't seen each other in a long time. Henry's really in his feelings about the idea that he had to believe that they had died, that they had
Yeah.
passed on for him to be able to move on. But he's feeling all this guilt now that he knows that Victor's alive, to be like, what kind of parent does that? Just gives up on their kid. Like, no wonder he doesn't want to see me. And
Yeah.
I expected that Victor was going to have this reaction at first. And a lot of it is because, he can't connect with people. We
Mhm.
haven't ever seen him really connect with anyone. When he was there, everybody died. And then he was alone. And we've seen it with his relationship with Ethan. Ethan has a remarkable amount of understanding for such a
Yeah.
young guy who's like, yeah, me and Victor were friends, but he pushes me away all the time because everyone in his life has died. And, I'm sure he doesn't want me to die too. I'm like, wow, you sound like you're 30. Like the
Pretty
writing on that, I
mature.
was like, okay, but a situation like this would probably mature somebody quite quickly. Ethan has seen a lot.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that Victor's really struggling with that. But to get to that point with him and Sarah, I love this friendship between them where
Mhm.
he finally just puts his head on her shoulder and
Yeah.
he's made like a physical human connection with somebody where it's very real, and he's let himself be vulnerable. He's shared these feelings. Yeah, her bedside manner's not the most amazing, but she did the best that she could. And she was honest with him. And I think that he appreciated that, and it was able to break through so that he could have this beautiful moment with his dad.
I know, I know. I mean, with Sarah, I think a lot of it comes down to this idea that she speaks to him like he's a normal person. And I
Yes.
think he kind of finds himself often, and in part due to his, childlike demeanor, that a lot of people talk to him like he's a kid or
Right.
talk to him like he doesn't understand. She was honest with him. She told him, he's a very good person, and in some ways that's somebody she would want to be, and it's somebody that I think she's still struggling to try to find because
Mhm.
she's still in a lot of ways identified by who she was in season one, but she gave Victor just enough so that we got that reunion. It was so unbelievably touching. Victor telling his dad that he didn't know how to get home, and he just like repeated
Oh.
that again and again. And it's sort of like both of them have just this regret that they're pouring out, but I think both of them realize, okay, you know what? It's okay now. We both tried our best. Let's just try to figure things out moving forward. And I'm not saying that it's going to be all hunky dory perfect, because I think if tensions are going to rise, Victor at some point is going to lash out and is going to be like, you left me, you didn't find me. Oh, but it's just him speaking emotionally, like a lot of people would in that situation.
Okay, let's talk about Boyd and Randall because
Yeah.
I had really thought that the monsters, and this still might be the case, this is just Boyd's feeling on what happened and why
Yeah.
they left Randall alive. It felt like to me they had left Randall alive specifically to hurt Boyd. They have said at the beginning of the season that pretty much everything they're going to do is to break Boyd, and they want to break his confidence. They want to break his hope. They
Mhm.
just want to break him. And the idea that they were giving him a choice. Okay, you can save the people in the ambulance, or you can save Randall. Okay, I choose the people in the ambulance. And he doesn't go back for Randall, and Randall is left really hurt, disfigured, and alive, as then the daily reminder that Randall's going to now have this animosity towards Boyd,
Yeah.
and it's going to be there every single day. And it's going to be a reminder that Boyd left him to die and that he made a choice and he didn't choose Randall. And that's the thing that's going to sit on him. So it was interesting to hear him say he thinks that the monsters left him alive as a collective for the whole town, to have a reminder during the day when they all feel safe that they are never safe. And I don't know if that's actually the reason or that's the reason that Boyd needs to believe.
It's a good point. I still believe you're right and Boyd is wrong. Like, I still think this is just to test Boyd because it makes,
Might be too hard for him to face.
yeah, I think it might be too hard for him to face, but I think that is the reality. We're going to have to face it for Boyd here on the outside world, just because we know that Randall goes off the deep end. If
Mhm.
this was a different character on this show, I would be more inclined to believe whatever Boyd is trying to believe. But because it's Randall, it's going to get to a point where he is going to sow dissension in the ranks, whether it's intentional or unintentional, and it's going to cause a lot of chaos. Like, if there is a big criticism you could have about this episode, it is that whether it's Jasper, which you already brought up, or whether it is
Yeah.
Randall, we've had these like huge cliffhangers to the end of this past episode. And in this one, it's just sort of on all this other stuff. And Randall, I guess, is just off getting better or whatever else. And we don't really actually spend a lot of time diving into either one of them here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for Randall, like in this next episode, maybe for him
Yeah.
to be well enough to speak further with Boyd on what happened or see what the real fallout is. I know that he did confront Boyd right away and was just like, "Hey, you left me,
Yeah.
you know, just over and over again, you left me to die. Like, how could you do that to me?" And I think that those conversations will come more and more and more. And maybe then that will be something that Boyd will face for himself, that it's like, oh, the monsters are trying to hurt the entire town with Randall
Yeah.
as a reminder, and not the monsters are trying to hurt you, Boyd, with a daily reminder that you chose this man to die.
Yeah, I don't think the town needs a reminder that people are really in danger no matter what. They've lost enough people, Boyd, for them all to know that they're pretty screwed so long as they're there.
Yeah, Dale has died during the day.
Yeah, and not all of these deaths are even due to the monsters. There's all sorts of ways people can go in Fromville, but I think that them sort of kicking the can down the road here a little bit on Randall, I don't know if it's meant to be somewhat of a temporary sign of relief at this point, or if it's just we're setting everything up so that everything terrible known to mankind is going to hit all at once, because we also still have this thing that apparently Christy is okay after the traps, and it just feels, I don't know if I believe it, if I'm being totally honest. It just feels like that was wrapped up a little bit too nicely for what we know the show to be.
Yeah, that whole thing that happened out in the cabins, pulling the pole,
Yeah.
what Jade saw, them, gathering the food, the bear trap, kind of turned into nothing right now. It's
Yeah.
just kind of like, okay, maybe Jade set things in motion, pulling apart the statue, but maybe not. Like, I don't know. Like, nothing has really come of that. And I'm a little bit worried that that's what's going to happen with Jasper, and that it's the next, if they aren't addressing it in either
Yeah.
the next episode or the one right after that, where they are going to go in and get Jasper. Victor knows that there are answers with Jasper, and so does Sarah. There are two people that know this. So one of them has got to go in and figure it out. Like, it can't just be left.
Yeah, my worst fear here is just that Sarah's gonna be like, I'm gonna go do this, guys. I'm gonna take this up, because Sarah just feels like a walking sacrifice waiting to happen at this point.
Yeah, but it can't be left. This can't be Who Poisoned Winnie over on Only Murders in the Building, where, 4 seasons later, we're still asking the same question.
No, where I think this season is going to go, at least at this point, is that, yeah, we lost Dale, but that's not ultimately going to stop discussions as to how it is that people can get out. Like, they're going to have more discussions about this. I mean, Tabitha's probably going to open up eventually about everything she was thinking and feeling before going into that bottle tree, going to the lighthouse, and then everyone else is eventually going to start manifesting, okay, this is what we need to do. We have to prepare ourselves. There's going to be this big joint effort to try to make this happen, but right around that same time, From is going to unleash basically the biggest storm of awful we have ever seen, because it actually kind of feels like right now it's just sort of accumulating nonsense and accumulating danger, because it knows it's going to have this storm coming. And I think we have Fatima's pregnancy, we have Christy in this trap, we have Jasper, what's going to be going on there. We just have so many potential really bad things that are all going to hit at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like Tabitha and Jade, who at this point feel like they have the most information, they need to sort of assemble the A team at this point, where they all just share all the information that they have. Bring in Boy, bring in Henry, Donna, people that have seen enough that they can share everything they have and just start making a murder board of like how do all these things connect so that we can get out of here. There's too many like pairs of people off doing things, and if they need to come together. And Fromville is about coming together. You have to be able to come together. That is something that Donna has
Yeah.
really been preaching this whole time. Even with Colony House, we have to come together. This is about the people more than it's about anything else, and us as a team getting out and having hope.
I really feel like the rest of the season is going to be about these people realizing it, but also confronted with a lot of terrible stuff. I think the producers are going to give us some answers. Not going to give us everything because there's no evidence this is the final season.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep moving forward. And that is what we have on From Season 3, Episode 5. Let us know all your thoughts in the comments, theories about the bottle tree, so much more. Hit that subscribe button because, like we said earlier, we have a full American Horror Stories Halloween event that we covered earlier this week. Lots of great videos all about that. Check those out and join our Patreon. We've got that link in the description where we cover the Penguin there exclusively. Thank you so much to our patrons.
Thank you.
We'll see you here next time.